I click the links to join the channel here over at SubStars. So, Rings of Power, Useful Idiot Actor has some thoughts. Afro Hobbit 16, we're reaching Afro Hobbit levels I had never thought possible. So, Rings of Power, in case you haven't been paying attention, has not been going well, which is an issue because Amazon has almost $1 billion into it, and I think they have 4 more seasons planned. And the first season was a woke abomination. You know, it's kind of funny because they had Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time, which you look at it and it just looks like diversity threw up on screen. And some of the actors are chubby and they're out on some like physical adventures and they're fat. It's bizarre. That didn't do well because no one's talking about it. So they thought, oh, we'll do something kind of similar with Rings of Power, based on the model of something that didn't work. That's weird. Why? It seems like there's a lot of weird things going on in the West these days. So with this show, it really has to be seen to be believed. You're going to ask yourself, why the hell are there Afro hobbits in Lord of the Rings? Because globalists seek to destroy everything European. They're anti-white. It is deeper than that. You can go down the rabbit hole as far as you want, but you can look at so much of what they do and you can just apply that boilerplate diagnostic to it. Why aren't you seeing the movie? Oh, well, you know, it's a standard anti-white globalist monkeypox. Don't really want to support that. Why would I support anyone who is promoting hate to the wonderful people of the light? They don't even pretend to spread it around. Nobody else gets focused on it. It's pretty blatant now. Lizards don't like humans. Then he gives this weird Frankfurt School bullshit double speak. Says, it was a big concern, controversy of me being the first elf that wasn't in accord with the story. The actor continued, I love the nerve that I pinched. I really do. Oh, you know, how about go F yourself? I was so excited to create something new. But, I mean, you didn't create anything. You're just an actor hired for the role. You didn't write the story. You're not carrying out the author's original intention. You're just a useful idiot. A lot of people speaking on behalf of Tolkien, you mean people who are intimately familiar with his work over the years, I don't know if they understand the spirit of Tolkien. His work speaks of the times. What did you just say? It's like the story is the alpha and omega. It was completed and ended when he wrote it. What you're doing to it is just globalist cancer. And the thing is, it would also be weird if they picked out any other group and focus hate on them. If all the bad guys had black eyes, black hair, brown skin, then it would be too formulaic. Everything would be telegraphed. You would see the character on screen. You go, oh, here's the heavy enters stage left. It's kind of like, wasn't it that Italian story structure, Scaramouche or something? And that was based on kind of like preset characters. Anyway, when something like Rings of Power comes out, before I saw it, I knew to look for the scene where and you can do this with anything new that comes out, where they dehumanize and degrade the blonde or red-haired person. And luckily with this show, it was in the first episode because, you know, getting through all 8 episodes is going to be rough. It actually was similar to a scene in Avatar Part 2. And in The Witcher, what's it called, Blood Origin or something? In all 3 cases, it was a blonde man in a bar or a pub being humiliated and marginalized. And in Rings of Power, it was a blonde man calling the Afro elf knife ears. It was so dumb, it actually hurt. And I mean, at that point, I mean, this is why the show dropped off a cliff in terms of watch numbers, because there was too many scenes like that. Woke means injecting anti-whiteism into everything. This isn't what Tolkien intended, because there's no shortage of interviews from him talking about his most famous story. It's not in the spirit. It feels like it was written by an SJW, because it was. In fact, I wish this was a big, well-funded channel, because I could start clipping scenes and doing breakdowns, but don't bother donating for it, because YouTube just wouldn't allow that kind of counter-narrative. And I say, if you want to know the way of the world on YouTube, look for hot topics on YouTube. And where there's a blank spot on the map is telling you what's just not allowed on YouTube, one way or the other, either outright banned or just it's going to be a gray zone when you come up to search for it. These people are the part of the the pretty hate machine, where because they're pretty on the surface and things look normal, and then you get inside into scenes and you simply start looking for the close-ups of the blue-eyed monsters, and you can see that in every freaking movie. And it's the same in comic books. Mark Waid had a new comic came out last month, and in the first like 2 pages is a guy in a ski mask who's robbing a bank or sticking up an airplane or something, and it zooms in to let you know that he has fair skin, of course, and he has blue eyes, because those are the people who like borrow airplanes or rob banks or something. Statistically, no, it's not. I don't know if other people notice all this kind of stuff, but it's beyond obvious, and a lot of times you just have to point this out to people, and then once they get it, it's like I don't know, it's like showing them a new dimension on the world. I mean, when you see it and you start seeing it everywhere, you're like, whoa, feels like somebody's manipulating us. It's like, yeah, somebody very much is. Anyway, Rings of Power had their first season, and then they got scared of some cold that was going around, and that delayed filming, which isn't going to matter because people are getting further away from #pureblood, from woke every day. You can see it with the Deadpool and Wolverine movie. It's pretty well a mediocre movie. No offense if people liked it. You didn't. I don't think you thought it was great because everything around it is so bad. But it's definitely a direction Hollywood should be going in for sure. I mean, they're not going to. The thing is, it just wasn't super over the top woke. It was I guess Ryan. Someone in the comments yesterday said Ryan Reynolds had a lot of control over that, and he was trying to dial things back to just make a fun movie, which they did that successfully. It's like, oh yeah, go in this direction, do more of this. It's just not going to happen because that's just not what Hollywood. That's just not who the people. Hollywood's a religion. It's a cult, and people think it's so weird. You talk about $1 trillion industry like it's a cult. It's like, welcome to planet Earth. Anyway, so actually that movie's number 4 domestically, but when you look at the top 20 movies, you see how horribly the woke films are doing because it's not a great movie. It's just fun. It's okay. It's like see it once. Don't think about it and don't watch it again, and you'll come out of it having a good time. What Hollywood does is like they get together. It's that room of She-Hulk, that image, video of the streaming She-Hulk, and they break the fourth wall, and there's a dozen writers, and they just look all like you expect them to look. A bunch of woke SJWs who hate Christian, Trump, blonde people. Where they go, you know what we should do? We should make everyone gayer and blacker. No, dude. Nobody wants to see that. Oh, so you're a Hugo Boss, istophobic, whatever buzzword of the day, right? And you go, yeah, totally. But then they have nowhere to go after that. After it's like, oh, but I all I have is ad homs and straw mans, because in their mind it means most of the planet is bigoted and intolerant, but they only hold one group of people to standards, and then everyone else is. There's an image of some in the UK. There's some a phrase and fracases going on. Thanks Terry Pratchett for that scene. He goes through a list of like all these different euphemisms, and there's the English are doing a chant, and one guy has his arm raised in the air, and it looks like a Roman salute, but if you look at the video, it's actually both arms, but the one arm is hidden. And so he goes, look at these English people, and then someone posts an image of someone from the Middle East in the UK, and he's actually doing the Roman salute. It's the funniest thing in the world to see, because they look for these blonde people to do hate crimes, and the supply is just. It's just not there. It's why like 99% of those cases are things like Jussie Smollett, and when you point it out and you provide evidence of it, they just don't want to look at it. They don't know what to do with it. And then when every fresh new hoax comes on, they have to take it seriously. It's like, listen, this whole people drawing the crooked crosses on a black guy's truck, he did it for the car, to get out of the car payments and get a GoFundMe. How dare you say that? You're so racist. Because it's the neighbor has got a high definition video camera with night vision, and he's on camera doing it. Okay, well, just because you're right the past 30 times doesn't mean the 30. It does. That's why probabilities and pattern recognition, they're not istophobic. Anyway, people just want movies to be left alone. That means follow the artist's original intention, as Peter Jackson did with Lord of the Rings, and he had an interview about that. It's like, well, why was this movie so fantastic? That's what he said. We all got together, the three people in charge of the movie, and said we're going to follow as closely as we can, and they did really well, with the time constraints. The true aficionado is like, no, the movie should have been 6 hours or something. It's like, you just can't do that. They did it in 3 hours, and that's about as long as you can expect the people in a theater. Stop effing everyone in the A with this woke AIDS. And I hate to break it to you, but there are no Afro hobbits in the story, which you'd know if you were familiar with the books, which many of us have reread every year, at least the first 4 books, and not the ones after that, which get into Silmarillion and get into world building and stuff. It's not what Tolkien intended. If you want a new fantasy story with woke cancer that nobody will watch, then first write your original story. Make some Mary Sue SJW story. Make the movie, and people are rightfully gonna reject it, because mostly people are not on board woke storytelling, because woke storytelling by definition is propaganda. It's not organic. And there's something in their people's subconscious that knows that they're being given a line of something that's so out of accord with reality. And not to be blunt here, the events of the past few years have moved people away from politically correct things in a different direction, where they're not, how do I say this? I guess I don't say this. Anyway, you're gonna have a hard time selling a European fantasy setting with small villages and dragons, and hey, the sub-Saharan hobbits are for some reason in this small European fantasy setting, and you ask yourself, well, why are they there? And the SJWs lose their fucking minds over it and go, all they have are ad hominem and straw mans. You go, yeah, okay, I get that, but why are there Afro hobbits and Afro elves? They look like they evolved from different evolutionary stressors and conditioners, particularly the amount of sunshine and whatnot. I mean, this is an analog to planet Earth. People look different because they evolved to their environment. So we have this fantasy setting that is clearly a European setting. Why are there black hobbits? Can you explain that to me? And they can't. You're supposed to just accept it. Like, yeah, but I just don't. I don't accept it. And how does an Afro elf make the story better? How do people look so radically different and they don't have an answer? It's all just a logic gap. The answer is because they're woke. They're Frankfurt School globalists. Logic doesn't matter. Everything is Disney sodomy all the time. Stories have to be organic to work. Usually, every so often you can go outside that if you have a firm foundation, but Hollywood doesn't have a firm foundation. Everything is woke propaganda, where the studio is injecting their own toxic political views into a story. Deadpool and Wolverine was an unusual change of pace, and I don't think you're going to see them follow it up, because that would be the logical thing to do. Why do they respect non-European stories and cultures and history and setting, but not European? And ultimately, because they hate you. That's why. But they'll keep doing it if you support them and you hold the purse strings. It's shocking the lack of respect they don't have for the source material, and that anyone is dumb enough to watch it or to pay to watch it. There are people who watch it specifically because it's bullshit material. The story doesn't matter, or the source material doesn't matter to them. If they swap out Europeans for Africans, which seems to be the favorite thing they do, you'll have the girls at the Mary Sue are just getting so excited so they can virtue signal on their Twitter accounts that nobody reads, which is actually kind of another weird thing with a lot of these Mary Sue type of online online, like IGN, Kotaku type of stuff, is that these with so many of these astroturfed Lugenpress accounts, Larry Fink funding and whatnot, but then you get to their Twitter accounts and the writers don't get any traction. They have very small accounts and they release posts that nobody is interacting with. So it makes it feel like it's I did say Larry Fink and Lugenpress just because they get so triggered by this kind of stuff. And what's that one quote that drives them up the wall? those you can't criticize. If you say that to SJWs on Twitter, they lose their mind because one of the sources of the quote. It's like, yeah, but it doesn't make it wrong. It doesn't matter who came up with these. I mean, these common themes are repeated throughout history. It's like the triggering of these. God, people are so brainwashed. I mean, I'm doing a video later tonight on for Odyssey. So the thing with stories like Lord of the Rings is that they're deeply cultural and spiritual, and it's offensive when an outsider who has no connection, let's get this picture up here, no connection to the people of the story, think that they can take it for their own use simply to elevate themselves. The story is a piece of the European mythology. It's by and for European people, which if you read it, you'd know. It's like playing a song out of key. To see someone in it who doesn't belong, and people are so politically correct these days that they can't say these things, which is, what I'm here for, as long as I can stay on YouTube. The actor only sees the story as a paycheck, a chance to further his career, and I understand that. But what I don't get in these 4 images I showed you, if you were reading the things he said about the show, was the incendiary hubris he shows in the interview is shocking. He thinks he can interpret Tolkien better than the people it was intended for because he doesn't respect Tolkien or the English culture at all. The same would be true if you took a story by an African, set it in Africa, and then swapped out the characters with Europeans and Asians. The Shaka Zulu story is, one of my favorites, and it would just be as ridiculous if you did that. We're going to make Seti Wayu and Panda Swedish and Japanese. Oh, okay, that makes sense. I mean, it's like Central Africa, the Asai or Maasai tribe or something, all like 6'2" and dark because it's in the sun. So Swedish doesn't. I mean, obviously they never go in that direction. How well did what was that movie? Oh God, what was that guy from Star Wars? Oh, the Dahomey tribe, the palm tree oil. No. We actually want to trade palm tree oil, but the English and French are making us trade people. Oh, that's kind of the opposite of history. Yeah, but we can't tell the real story because it makes the Dahomey tribe look bad and the French and English look good, and we just have to switch it up. That's ridiculous. Yeah, but they're going to keep doing this kind of stuff. I mean, if I was a black producer and director, I'd just lean into it and go, yeah, that's what we did, because that was the accepted common practice at the time. It was like, yeah, trading people was commonly accepted. That was just what was done. It's I wouldn't be ashamed. It's like some of the Mexicans are ashamed of the Aztec past or something. I'd be like, that's what they did. That's just, people did it all over the world. It's, part of history. You got to move on from it. But they don't want to acknowledge it, like the Dahomey tribe stuff, because then you're forced to say, oh, the Europeans didn't start slavery, but they ended it. They don't know where to go from that. And I mean, we're gonna, like, when all this crashes down, it's gonna be a fantastic. Imagine if there was an alternative Hollywood somewhere in Montana. Somebody built up an alternative. It would be fan-frickin-tastic. Anyway, it would be insulting if you swapped out, Panda and Seti Wayo for people who look like me and you, because it would not be respectful of Shaka Zulu's story, as it is in the Rings of Power. And the streaming show, which comes out in a part 2 in a month, is just flat out, or at least part 1 was not good. I'm sure part 2 is not going to turn it around. The willing suspension of disbelief just doesn't go far enough to cover Asians and Africans in the story. And, people hear that and they just immediately have a stimulus response that seems to bypass any cognition. Like, well, when that happens, a Pavlovian kind of thing, stop and, think. Don't just emote. Thing is, we know the only reason they did it was because they hate European people, culture, history, even paganism and Christianity, because they're lizard people. It's what they do. Anyway, so they are going to start season 2 at the end of this month. So maybe we can watch it together in a Rumble or a Odyssey live stream. I'm on there, and the links below if you want to join those channels. There's a lot you can get away with in a live stream on those platforms as long as you delete it afterwards. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next episode.